Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Northwest Passages virtual forum with Coach Nick Rolovich from Washington State. We had Athletic Director Pat Shun on last week, and then you'll be able to find this later on at spokesman.com and also on our YouTube channel. And I'll have a little recap written up later on. So thanks to Coach Rolovich for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Theo.
Yeah. First off, I just kind of wanted to ask you about your kind of life in quarantine, how you kind of adjusted to all this personally, and what kind of a normal day looks like for you right now.
Well, I think dealing with it as best we can, like everyone else. Got to make the most of it. Nobody's going to feel sorry for us. We have to understand that first, But right now, we just got to do what's right and take advantage of the time we have. And there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time for us to communicate with our guys. The Zoom meetings have been increasing. I think our guys are getting used to it. Seem to be adjusting to a complete online academic schedule fairly well. There are a lot of different environments that guys come from where there can be some complications, but our academic people, our assistant coaches are very conscious of that, and that's kind of our number one thing every day.
I think I saw that your family had kind of finally made the move from Hawaii. What's it been like to have them in Pullman permanently now?
Well, they came for spring break. Then everything kind of went down, and so they're still here. So homeschooling. My twins are helping me write letters to recruits, so that'll be good. They get their handwriting in and their coloring in, and I think it's also different for the recruits to get a kid's drawing on a card, maybe brighten their day.
Have you been pretty involved in the homeschooling system? I know talking to Coach Kyle Smith a few weeks ago, he said he was actually pretty involved in the daily routine of making sure the kids are kind of getting through their homework and getting through their schoolwork.
Yeah, and it's kind of been nice to be involved in that, to be honest. As a father, as a football coach, you're away for so much of that, and our wives do do so much that maybe a lot of people don't always see, but football coaches know. But it has been fun setting a schedule, kind of like a practice schedule. Getting the workout in. This is math time, and then there's also good ways, right? Puzzles, games, but I think dominoes is an excellent math lesson, and so we've been playing some dominoes. And card games. I think there's stuff in there you can do.
Are you more of a math guy, more of a science guy,
Math.
more English literature guy?
Math. I like reading, but I'm a math guy.
Mm-hmm. How often
what are you?
Seeing the profession I'm in, more of an English literature guy, I think. Math and science are never kind of strong suits, but
probably a smart boy.
Just to be able to cover college football, I think you have to be able to use some numbers every now and then. So, and now covering Nerdball and Cal Smith, you have to be able to kind of get through the numbers. So, how often are your players right now hearing from a coach? What are the communication efforts look like? Or is it mainly position coaches communicating with guys in their position groups, or are you guys also having kind of full team meetings right now?
Not full team Zoom meetings. I try to hit them once or twice a day on the group message, whether it's different tips on. We had a great seminar yesterday about, not necessarily, mental health, but strengthening, some mental exercises we talked about, and mindset, mindfulness, I think would probably be the number one description of the talk. And there was some good stuff, just forwarded on to the players, give them something to read, break up their day. Coach Green from baseball, when this first started, I thought he had a really good idea where he was doing, a message from a teammate to the team in the group me or group message world, where you would put something that's on your mind or something that's inspired you or something you wanted to share with teammates and tag another one. The next day, another guy did it. So we began doing that with the team, which I think especially was helpful, right after we heard the news about Bryce. I think it kept us together, and a lot of people shared some good thoughts. We also got one going with the assistant coaches that I think, because there still needs to be, as a whole staff, right? There's there's growth not only in our relationships with the team but with each other. There's still new faces around, and we've got to learn who we are and to move forward as a whole unit.
Mhm. Speaking of Bryce Beekman, I wanted to ask you about Dallas Hobbs' kind of gesture that a couple of days ago. He kind of announced he was going to be making some stickers for Bryce and selling those. How impressive was that to see one of the leaders on your team kind of step forward and really take initiative to kind of help out a family in need?
I mean, take football out of it. Dallas Hobbs will. I'm not surprised at anything he accomplishes. I've only known him a few months, but this is an incredible, just human. And I'm glad he's on our football team, but I'm also glad he's in this world. This is a guy who's making a difference in a positive way and being creative, but his heart is pure. It's a genuine thing he wants to do, and he's using some of his skills to bring some kind of positivity to this situation. I think he deserves a ton of credit. I think, from what I'm learning, I mean, I think people, as far as Coug fans, are as proud of who he is as a person than they are as what he does on the field.
What's the transition been like to online distance learning? I'm sure there are some students and some athletes who kind of learn better in a classroom. I bet there's probably a couple who actually find this probably more beneficial. How's that transition been, and kind of keeping track of the grades and making sure all the students are kind of meeting the requirements?
Well, again, the academic department has, when this, I just was impressed with the proactive approach our whole athletic, at least everyone that's involved in the football program, has taken, from Pat Chun to academics to, some of the ideas from the strength staffs. It's just been a real team effort. So they've done a nice job. There was some information gathering that was going to be right. Okay, this class, is it going to meet at the scheduled time, or can you do it whenever now? I mean, now you got professors who also are not used to distance learning, having to decide what their approach is going to be. So a lot of communication with 100 guys or whatever, and 4 or 5 classes each. So I commend them on how they organized it. And to be honest, I have great appreciation for the assistant coaches, because they came here, they wanted to do something great, and this is throwing a wrench in everyone's plans. But they've really kept the students at the forefront of their mind. At least just talking, we talk about every day as a staff.
Definitely. We have some fan questions that we want you to answer here. The first one here from Bobby Ellis. I know you've answered different variations of this question, and I know you're kind of not looking past not kind of looking past the fact that football is kind of second right now, and we kind of are focusing on bigger things. But someone wants to know, how does spring ball impact program with a new head coach? And obviously there's 3 programs in Pac-12 that have new head coaches in Colorado, Washington, and you guys, and all 3 of those teams weren't able to start spring ball. So can you just talk a little bit about how that kind of impacts you guys, and that you guys are kind of negotiating that right now?
Well, it's not optimal. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I wouldn't say it's not a big deal, or we would love to be doing spring ball, because there's still some roster evolution that we were kind of hoping to, keep an eye on throughout spring ball, and the portal, and fall camp, and names, and scholarship, and all that stuff is always kind of not up in the air, but there's always kind of things happening. So without really getting to be with these kids on a football field, it just somewhat backs up your plans a little bit, and as far as where you thought you maybe going with the roster and what you were going to add and all that stuff. But yeah, we just got to adapt and overcome. It is what it is. No, I would love to have had spring ball. I'm not going to sit here and say, no problem, we don't need spring ball. But it's not going to do me no good complaining about it. I know I like that, for the first couple of weeks, there was, real take a step back, put everything on pause as far as major decisions by people above me, NCAA, the country, the state. I get all that. I like some of the discussions that are going on with the Pac-12. I think there's been I've been enjoying watching that approach and being a part of that approach, and I think there's some optimism, starting to rear its head, I think.
And another fan question from Andrew Bovenkamp. He wants to know, what does a successful season look like, assuming that we get a season eventually? What does a successful season look like to you? Do you measure that by wins or losses, or do you measure that by development and where you think you guys are headed as a program?
Well, both to some extent. You always want to win them all, right? Love to be, play respectable football with the right characterizations of how I believe the game should be played. I want them to represent themselves, their family, Washington State in a positive manner, playing as hard as they can. But yeah, it's not like I can sit here and say, all right, we're going to be okay if we go 1-11, but we play hard. That's not what I'm saying. You also want to be able to develop these young men, and especially we have a lot of young bodies. There's going to be a lot of growth in a lot of the young classes. I think we got up to 60 freshmen or redshirt freshmen slated to come in this fall. So who's going to be able to contribute special teams wise with the 4-game rule? All that stuff is, it's part of the equation now, which I'm a big fan of the 4-game rule.
Mm-hmm. I know you guys are still able to do some kind of installation work right now. Obviously, until you get into the field, you won't know really who's playing what positions, and you won't really get a great sense of what the offense looks like, what the defense looks like until you can actually play. But what does the installation kind of look like right now, and how much can you get done virtually right now?
I think it's depending. I think it differs a little bit on both sides of the ball. There are some quizzes. I think offensively, at least I'm going to speak offensively. Yes, there's some installing going. There was some installation going, even just talking about schemes with our guys before we were scheduled to have spring ball. So, but this has given us a chance to really harp on the details of the foundation of what we want to do offensively. Landmarks, splits, releases, and not really throw a bunch of concepts at them, but really get the foundation. And they're getting a little bit more every day, but the opportunity to give them quizzes has seemed to be a positive for our coaching staff. We're also working with Blackboard. Kind of that's what our players use as far as their online schooling for a lot of their classes, so they're familiar with it. It's really forced coaches to get outside their comfort zone in their teaching approach. A lot of the day is spent recruiting at this time, though, too.
Can you kind of talk about recruiting a little bit? And obviously, you guys are able to give kind of virtual tours of the campus right now through FaceTime and through other kind of methods. Can you talk about how you've adjusted to recruiting violation or recruiting mandates, I guess?
Well, we're not allowed to go through the campus right now, with a virtual tour. A lot of our, just trying to be creative, FaceTime with family members and multiple coaches, a lot of handwritten letters, call list, mailing list, text list, and you're always kind of looking at the board and maneuvering the board. And so we try to meet a couple times a week, just strictly on recruiting, but it is, you like the spring to get out and see guys and really get that face-to-face evaluation. I think we're going to have to do a little bit more of that as far as, we got to find out more about a kid, I think, before, and that's kind of what that level, we like this kid's film. Let's go see him in person. Let's get a real idea of who this kid is. Now we've got to do it virtually or by phone.
Mm-hmm. This is actually a recruiting-related fan question from James Walden here. Do you think current events and limitations will have any effect on the outcome of recruiting quality, and do you think you'll be able to get the same quality of class without the limitations, as you would without the limitations?
What I've learned is I think people need to get to Washington State to really appreciate the fullness of its greatness. So, Yeah, I think we would like to have had a bunch of kids on campus by now, and I think um, that's again we can't control it, but that's one of the things where I've learned is if people come here, I think they have a much greater appreciation for the values, the opportunities, the environment than maybe what they perceive from afar. So no, I don't think it's been a positive not being able to get kids on campus.
Going back to your offense, I kind of wanted to ask you if we could kind of go down the positions of the offense and kind of what the most important part to learning the offense is to a quarterback, to a receiver, to a running back, to an offensive lineman. If you could kind of start with
Say
quarterback,
it again.
what's some,
Okay, what do you want to do?
yeah, just going down the different offensive positions. What's kind of the most important aspect of learning the run and shoot for a quarterback, for a running back, for a wide receiver, for an offensive lineman? If we could start with quarterback, when you're teaching it, what's kind of the most important aspect of the offense for a
Well,
quarterback?
for all of them, it's belief in the system, and this is not a situation where we're coming in after a inept offense. These are guys who are used to production. They're used to putting the ball in the end zone. Um, and we understand that. You know, again, there will be some carryover as far as mindset and the one thing that I will try to do first is make sure, I don't want to hear any of that. Well, I wish we ran, we should have ran what we ran last year in this situation. But I don't want to. I wouldn't be able to piecemeal it in a good way. You know what I mean? And I've told the guys this. I say, you guys, I'm not saying the air raid's bad. No way am I saying that. I don't know it very well, and I don't, want to pretend like I'm a master at it. I would feel much more comfortable about the run and shoot. I think there'll be some aspects of this that you guys will enjoy learning. But buy-in is going to be offensively, and to be honest, and defensively, because there is a schematic change going on over there. But quarterback, knowledge of the offense, ability to have personal relationships with the receivers, on-field relationships with the receivers. That's important. We encourage that a bunch. Accuracy and it really comes down to who moves the ball down the field and puts it in the end zone the most efficient. Okay. I think they all know. Well, they don't know, but I don't. If we're not getting it done with the quarterback, what I've learned is if we have another guy that can do it, I'm not afraid to make that call if it's the best one for the team, and I feel that in my heart. Because last year for us in Hawaii there was some real difficult decisions for both those quarterbacks, to start, to get benched, and I don't plan on living that way, but I think there's a real chance they all feel they got a chance to do it, and they should.
Going to the wide receiver position, and the last 8 years or so, people have kind of been used to playing. Coach Lee's kind of played 8 receivers, started 4, kind of rotated through 8 receivers. Do you like to kind of play 4 receivers, or do you kind of rotate them through, or does it just kind of depend on the situation on the field?
I've never rotated to that extent, so and to be honest, I didn't know that was a major component of Coach Leach's philosophy or the air raid in general. So, yeah, I wouldn't foresee an 8-man rotation. I just, if we got guys that can play, we'll find ways to get them in the game. But that's never been something we've really emphasized or tried to do.
We have another fan question. I think I know the answer to this, but would you implement a tight end in your system, and if so, how would that kind of impact your offensive scheme?
No, I don't have any big plans to do that. I think it changes it. Well, obviously, it changes it. You bring another guy in the box. You've got different number counts. You got different abilities to space the field defensively. And listen, and a good tight end can do a lot for you. I don't know if it translates more consistently than just maybe a few plays in special situations or red zone or goal line. If you had a body type like that to use, I'm not afraid to do that. I just don't think it'll be an everyday part part of the offense as long as, we're trying to stay true to the run and shoot.
Right.
And I like the simplicity 10 personnel gives you. It really, guys can do, they only get 11 guys. They can only do so many things. And I think that's one of the positives of the offense is our guys, as far as receivers and quarterbacks, they have a good idea of what to anticipate by the look they're seeing. Because there is, and defenses are always evolving, and now that you're seeing these match coverages, but for us, you can get man or zone, you can get zero man, you can get man free, you can get two man, you can get zone, you can get one high zone, two high zone. So there's and then obviously there is some variations and things like that, but we try to start in that structure and then teach the details of kind of the offshoots of those coverages.
Once you actually get to fall practice or whatever kind of practice comes next for you guys, do you prefer to rep two or three quarterbacks at the same time, or do you want to quickly kind of whittle it down to one guy so that guy's getting more reps and more practice for the actual games?
I would say 1 and 2 would get the majority of reps in a normal game week situation. I think you've got to try to get 3 guys ready. So there will be a lot of routes on air, so there'll be a lot of opportunities for throws. We really do need to evaluate our process because with spring ball, you don't have those 15 practices and you don't have those reps for all those quarterbacks. So it's looking more and more like we probably won't get that spring ball and we'll get some kind of fall camp with everybody. So depending on that timeline will affect how we do the quarterback reps. But I would like to give everybody a chance, and everyone's going to throw the ball every day. So they'll have opportunities to show what they've got. We'd like to run two huddles. We'd like to get a lot of reps early on, especially in spring. I think it helps your development. It helps, you split the coaches up. You get some young guy reps. As much as we can do that, we try to.
Do you like to hold 2 or 3 different scrimmages before the first game, or how do you kind of manage the scrimmage situations during fall camp normally? Is it one week?
In general, a couple of scrimmages. Especially with the game situations, really, that's really something that I try to do. One situation every day of fall camp. At the end of practice, the whole team listens. This is this situation, and it may not even come up this year. It might not come up next year, but maybe in year 3, even though there's those that, and we all know them, right? Just like kickoff after a safety, you always got to be ready for it. You hardly use it, but when you need to be efficient in the rules and the situations when those do come up. And I think it lets guys think about the game on a kind of a bigger global view, but a bigger view rather than just my position, my route, my steps, my stance, things like that. So. Because these kids are smart now, Theo. These kids have access to a ton of information, whether it's videos, highlight films, coaching opinions, commentators. I mean, these aren't dumb kids, So the thing that I've started to really notice the last few years is as long as you have a why, they will work. They want to know why, and that's not a crime. That's just growing up in an age where most of your answers can come at the tip of your fingers. And I just think it's a natural way for young people now.
Mark from Riverside wants to get a better understanding of the run and shoot. He wants to know if there's a particular game to watch for maybe last season or the last couple seasons to really get a better understanding of what it looks like, and or maybe just go through the whole season, or was there one game where you guys were really effective running it and you kind of recommend watching that game?
Oh, I don't know. I know. So you can give the best game, but it's probably not as sometimes things just fall into place, and you should see pretty good consistency throughout the last couple years. Now, obviously, sometimes it was more effective than others, but um, I guess what do you want to see it against? You can do a little research that way, but you're not going to see a ton of variation. I think you pick a game and peek at it, and you can see. I know we played real good versus Reno. That was kind of one of those games where everything was working. You know, this last bowl game versus BYU, we had a really good first half, got stymied in the second half, and got it going in the fourth quarter. But no, I mean, pick a game, and if you want to see a bad game, pick the bad stat game. If you want to see a good game, pick the good stat game.
Mark also wants to know your policy on holding open versus closed practices during the season, and how much fans will kind of be able to watch you guys practice, maybe up to a certain point when you guys have to close it off a little bit more.
Well, I like to be open in the spring. It was going to be a good opportunity to talk to the fans, let them get a look. I think there's some natural excitement with college football, and I'm not. I can't blame them if they want to, especially if you talk about little kids coming out, maybe meeting their hero. I'm all about that. Now, there's a time in the fall camp where you try to close it down and really start kind of hunkering down and focusing in. But I think I really don't mind having people at practice at all. I probably get in trouble for some of the things I do, but that's why I bring people out on the field. And I just think a little kid will never forget going on the field, breaking it down with the Cougars after a fall practice. I just think those are easy ways to make a good impression on a young mind. So.
Then I wanted to ask about your Cougar Madness bracket that you held a couple weeks ago. It just finished up a couple weeks ago, and how fun was that for you to kind of get a look back at Washington State football history? And were you able to sit down and watch most of those games from
No, I wasn't able to watch all those games, but I enjoyed learning about those games. I understand the social media age bias. I got that a lot. Just so everyone knows, I didn't see them. That was a Twitter seeding, but the passion was pretty consistent, and I think it also gave people a bunch of good memories to go back over, and a lot of good little footnotes or stories about the games. I enjoyed reading the replies. I'd really love to play some of those games in Martin Stadium and have some people come watch them in the stadium. I think that'd be pretty fun.
What was maybe the most fascinating thing that you learned about the history of WC football that you weren't aware of beforehand, before taking the job?
Well,
or maybe a couple.
I'm glad I started with the book, and the title slips me now, but about the 1915 team and that early Rose Bowl. That I kind of like that time period, and some of the stories about people walking to Idaho, and I think there was so many critical things that happened in that book that have allowed us to get to this point. So that Lone Star Deeds. I mean, all the stories of the games, and even how those details. This is over 100 years old, and we've got some pretty good details from the games that I enjoyed, and how, to be honest, some of the concepts that were run. There was the beginning of the no huddle. I mean, you're talking about 1915, where we're talking hurrying up. We're talking about how I envisioned it, like a radar defense, where people are moving all over the place and really confusing people. So I had no idea about that. That was fun for me to learn. Really enjoyed Coach Walden's book. Some of the things he talked about, like the Sunday meetings where they talked about, fancy dinner plates and tying a tie and some life skills that he was able to kind of integrate in just his life teaching. I thought that was a really good. I think that's part of our job as college football players or coaches also. And I'm just getting into the in Ryan Leaf's book, but and that one I'm a couple chapters in, but and enjoying that story. There's a couple of things that I just I've been able to connect with a couple alums, with like Keith Millard last night. And because I remember him growing up, and my uncle said they were friends, and I always kind of followed his career. I don't know, Jason, is it McIndoe? Is that how you say the name?
Jason McIndoe. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So me and him had a long talk the other night, and he's the one who told me, suggested go, read Leaf's book. And, I had no idea what that team had gone through about as far as the car accident. And I mean, and every school has their history and their stories. I just think it's a very important part of us as coaches who do not have a prior history with this institution and in this program to learn it, respect it, help tell the stories, to understand why we are able to be doing the things we do. You know what I mean? I enjoy, the amount of alumni that I met, just throughout some of the high school coaching stuff in the state, and hearing some of their stories. That was all, to me, I like that part of it. So I don't know if that is just a long answer, but that was what I've enjoyed learning.
Is it kind of neat to see how the spread offense really kind of someone originated in Pullman with Mike Price running the one back offense, and I think a lot of people kind of associate the spread with the last 10 to 15 years, but really kind of started in the late 1980s or 1990s with Coach Price and running the one back offense in Pullman.
Yeah, nope. I think probably doesn't get the credit, and I say it, not just it. There was a few. I heard a story about a coach's clinic up here. One about they used to do a one-back clinic up here, and what's interesting is the JC I got to play at, City College San Francisco, and the coach there, Dan Hayes, who coached Gordo and has been there for a long time, done a great job. But he was telling me about a coaching clinic he came up with Price, and they had kind of a one-back clinic here. And that was right about the time I started graduated high school and got to play. So a lot of those concepts that, I don't know if they discussed at that clinic, but those minds that got together that were kind of thinking the same way about one back. Obviously, there was some stuff in Texas going on too. I'm not saying that, but that's a whole nother subject I won't get on. But I think back because we were one back in junior college, and then so maybe some of the stuff I ran in junior college that was talked about with Price at the one back clinic, things like that.
Mouse Davis is obviously the guy that kind of is known to have invented the run and shoot offense, and I know that that's one of your close friends. Do you plan to have him come to Pullman to maybe talk to your players about the run and shoot offense, or just kind of communicate with them about the history of it, the origins of it, and kind of how to run it?
We definitely had plans to bring Mouse up. Obviously everything's up in the air now. I just think when you hear his passion, he's a person that, anybody really, if you get around him, he's pretty infectious. And he's always good on the first couple of days when he really drives home the belief in the system. And he's really just a pretty entertaining character too. So the kids like him.
Also an Inland Northwest guy. He's from Palouse, Washington,
right.
I believe.
Right. I drove through Palouse and I took a picture of the sign and sent it to him.
Yeah. I think it'd take all of 10 seconds to drive through Palouse, but a pretty cool little town there next to Pullman.
Yeah,
so
no doubt.
Another fan question from Jason Schlegel, and I believe you've also kind of talked about this the last few months, but do you think it'll be easier for players to pick up your offense having run the air raid and another kind of passing heavy offense?
If they challenge themselves with taking all the good stuff they did and seeing what translates, because maybe that can add something more to our off. It's all in the belief. And like I said, I don't want to go through that whole conversation again. But yes, I think having the mindset of the personnel group and how reliant on the pass game was, I do think that will help. Again, my thing is, you guys are great at the air raid. I'm not saying that, but just give this a chance and ask questions. And, that's the buy-in I'm talking about.
And another question comes from Jesse Tinsley, actually one of our photographers at the Spokesman. He's a Hawaii native, so he says life in Hawaii often revolves around good food. Is there anything you'll miss from Hawaii now that you're in Pullman? I'm sure there's probably a couple things.
I miss the fish. There's a lot of good food in Hawaii, so it's. I don't want to get started. The fish was good. Kahlua pig was good, and poi was good for me, and rice. I like that. The only thing I don't think I'll admit, I wasn't a big lomi salmon fan, so everything else I would eat. But
That probably includes spam too. Or were you a big fan of spam, or did you stay away from spam?
no, I'm a spam guy. This quarantine, I went and got some spam just to have in case. I think stuff lasts.
Yeah. If you get a chance, go over to local grinds in Moscow. It's run by a Hawaiian family. Maybe you've already been there, but pretty good Hawaiian food there in Moscow. Once
Good tip.
they might be doing takeout. So I wanted to kind of bring up your profile picture on Twitter. I wanted to ask you if you had a chance to kind of watch Tiger King, if you had any good Tiger King conspiracy theories.
No, no, it was part amazement, part criminal drama. It had a lot of characteristics. I did finish that with my wife, and I had to sit on that picture for a while because I just couldn't believe somebody did that. It was pretty funny, but I'm okay laughing at myself. That's not a big deal to me. So, but one of the recruits were laughing at it too. So.
I assume that's the show that you watch once you put the kids to bed at night.
Well, we try not to do shows every night. Try to read.
What are some other good Netflix shows you've kind of been watching during this quarantine, or books you've read maybe?
I don't know if we got 4 kids, so I got Caddyshack in one night, but that was about, most of them have to do with, what did we watch? Lord of the Rings. We watched Lord of the Rings trilogy in this quarantine, which was okay, but now most of it's been around the kids' ideas.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys been able to get outside or throw a football around or anything like that, or take hikes, or are you guys kind of getting your exercise during this quarantine?
Walks, indoor, the inside workout. What else we do? We played this fitness Monopoly last night. Have you heard of this?
I haven't, no.
That was pretty good. I think if I find a board, I'm going to tweet it out because it was simple, fun, effective, and got people moving. I thought that was a clever idea. I think one of my kids' school sent it home, so played that last night. My wife's a big walker. I like walking, so we've taken some walks, but it's really just been good spending time together, to be honest with you, and kind of resetting with the family.
There's obviously a lot of classic games that are being kind of replayed on ESPN right now. Have you had a chance to go back and watch any classic football games or basketball, baseball?
I'm upset I missed that Texas USC game. I would have enjoyed watching that again. Tell you the truth, it's we got a pretty organized day as far as recruiting, opponent film. It's the recruiting guy Rob Schlager's got us organized to a point where there's always something to do, and like I said, I haven't had tons of time to just sit on the couch and eat chips and watch shows. You're kind of making it seem like that's all we're doing, Theo.
No, I imagine they're pretty full days. Do you think you're kind of busier than you actually expected to be during this quarantine?
I think you get frustrated, because you can do so much to a point. To get creative. Obviously, the graphics game is where we're challenging our guys right now. I think there's a lot of great clips on YouTube of the atmosphere of game day that's easy to send out to guys. Really just trying to build the relationship and complete in a complete fashion as far as with the recruits and their families. I think that's probably been because you get a chance to do that when you're on campus together. But I think the FaceTimes have been effective. The ones that you get to look somebody eye to eye, you can ask questions, and it's good. It's as close as we get to human contact. So.
You talked a few weeks ago about being surprised about how much Pullman kind of fits your personality. Can you kind of expand on that, and what's been kind of the most striking part about being in Pullman and kind of the Pullman community so far?
I get the feeling that Pullman, Washington State, and alums aren't afraid to have fun, aren't afraid of hard work, aren't afraid of stressing and valuing good human characteristics. I like the togetherness as far as everyone involved and caring about one another at a pretty high level. I think maybe it's small town, but just to me, I mean, I get it. Not everyone's like just a bunch of robots here, but there is a pretty common theme of being a good neighbor, being a good community member. I mean, all that seems like it's pretty commonplace, and I just think I try to live that way too.
We have another Twitter question. Someone wants to know what's the brand of hat that you wear. I know you have probably about a dozen to 15 different hats. So what's that brand? Kind of explain your hat collection.
Well, I'm about to shave my head again, shave my beard because. No, I'm just kidding. This one was made by a Connor company called Connor. The hat thing's kind of gone crazy, but I'll embrace it. I just at some point we gotta play good football and pump out good kids and not just be the hat guy.
Mm-hmm. I'll leave you with one more question. I wanted to ask your 5 favorite football movies. If you could kind of number your five best football movies that you've watched.
I like The Program. I like Rudy. Remember the Titans. I would include Waterboy. I think that one would be in there. That's in a football movie. Number 5, probably Friday Night Lights. Maybe. Which ones did I miss? There's some good ones.
Yeah, I think you got a few of the classical ones. So I'd probably go with Remember the Titans. That's probably my favorite one. So.
Okay. Wait, what? There's got to be some more good football movies though.
Yeah, let's see. The Longest Yard. Both of those are pretty entertaining. I don't know if I've actually seen the old one, but I've seen the newer one a handful of times.
Yeah, I've seen the old one.
Yeah,
there's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good football. Let's go. What else you want to talk about? That's it. That's all we're done.
Blindside's another good football movie there.
That was the one I was trying to think of. Yeah.
So, well, I think those are all the questions I had. If there's anything else you want to talk about, I think we probably have a few more minutes. I know you have another commitment here in about 15, 20 minutes, but.
How are you doing? How are you doing with all this?
Doing all right. This is kind of an odd time, and we're obviously trying to fill newspaper pages, so it's been interesting. But fortunately, we have great access thanks to the sports information people at WCU, and I hope Bill's still listening so you can hear that. So we're pretty appreciative. But I guess another thing is that you were able to go to 3 or 4 different Washington State basketball games, and you were there on Klay Thompson's day, and then came down to Las Vegas, and you're at the Apple Cup. What was that experience like? Just kind of following Kyle Smith's first season, and I think the team probably went 2-1, 3-1 in the games that you attended. So,
I enjoyed Kyle a lot. I like his approach. What I've enjoyed is the togetherness of all the sports programs. Like we all eat in the grade W. So you interact with them a bunch and you see them a bunch, and I don't know. I think it builds a good community. So I felt like, I don't know, I became fans of the basketball guys pretty quickly. Obviously I got to see the Clay game, which was awesome, right? Then, you know, was able to get over to watch them in the Apple Cup, and that was just there was so much character in that win, and so much the importance in our guys' faces and how they played, and I think it was if you were a Washington State fan, I think you were impressed and you were proud to be supporting those guys in that team. So um, I enjoyed them a bunch. I was excited about baseball season. I went to a baseball game. That was nice weather, nice park. I like Coach Green. I like what those guys were trying to trying to do. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see some soccer.
Yeah.
Hearing about girls soccer. I want to and the women's basketball is nice to get to know them. But I like women's volleyball. That's always kind of been big. It's big in Hawaii. So as a player and a coach, that was always, hopefully we can catch a couple of those matches too.
Yeah, well, you obviously can't beat a good Friday night at Baylor Brayton Field, especially if the weather's good and late April, late May. It's really nice setting out there. So you obviously got to meet Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and Zaza Pachulia, and I know you grew up in the Bay Area. Did you kind of grow up a Golden State Warriors fan?
I did. I'm a Giants, 49ers, Warriors fan. I know people like to say we just became Warrior fans, but I got a Richardson 23 jersey. I've seen Manute Bol shoot a 3-pointer in person. So I got some history with the Warriors.
Yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area too. I think I've told you that before, so I get the same thing. And but sure,
where did you grow up?
What's
where
that?
did you where
I
did you
grew up in Dublin. My parents are in Livermore now, but Dublin, Livermore, Pleasanton, San Ramon, Tri Valley area. So tough watching that Super Bowl. The Niners losing to the Chiefs, but
I'll tell you this. This is funny. So we were new, but we had started the group there with the team and started betting them 25 push-ups on. All right, I got the Chiefs for 25, so I don't know if this is exactly it, but about right when it looked like it was about over and the 49ers are going to win it, I said, you guys owe me those 50 push-ups or whatever. As soon as I hit send, the game just turned, and these guys gave me hell when I saw them the next day. As far as I had to give them my push-ups, I couldn't even do as many as I owed them. So that was pretty fun.
So you had to do 50 of them then?
I don't know. I think I was supposed to do 100. I don't think I quite got them all. But everyone who bet the Niners had to do them. So there's a bunch of us getting down there.
Do you have any KC fans on the team that you're aware of, or
well, I
just
mean,
the Niners maybe?
I don't. It's hard to tell, but there was enough Chief fans to probably more Chief fans, or at least Chief push-up bets than 49er push-up bets.
Right. Well, great. Thanks a lot for the time, and I kept you for 15 minutes here. So thanks a lot for the time today, and maybe we can get you back on down the road. So, what's that?
I know when I've worn out my welcome.
Oh no, it's okay. If I keep you for another 10 minutes, I'm going to get a text from Bill Stevens. So I don't want to. I want to keep Bill happy with me.
You're all right. I enjoyed it. I appreciate it, and just hope everyone stays safe, and let's get through this thing.
Let's do it, and hopefully I can interview you on a football field here sometime in the next month. So great, thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate it, and look for this later on today. We'll have the replay on our YouTube channel, and I'll have it right up at the spokesman.com website. So thanks for having us.
Thanks, Theo.